now recognize members of the public who have signed up to provide comment stipulated in policy 903. When your name is called, please approach the podium, state your name, confirm you're a resident or taxpayer in the district, and the topic of discussion for the record. Please direct your comments to the board as a whole, not to an individual. We ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. The privilege to speak may be interrupted, revoked, or a recess of the meeting may be called by the chair if the speaker does not observe reasonable decorum and orderly conduct. Thank you. And our first speaker is Dwayne Sullivan.
Good evening to the board. I want to point out a few things that I've noticed here since I've been on this board. First off, first thing you went after me for was 006 to stop the president through the small group rules. That was your first attempt. Second attempt was 012 to stop me again from talking to the solicitor. Third attempt was 004, membership clearances. You wrote in there you wanted to make a rule where the president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary had to have clearances. Well, you dropped that, but even when I did get the clearances and did everything legally, including the TV test at my cost, you turned me down for that. Fourth offense, 005, taking out a letter. You took out a letter and a hearing to remove an officer. I see that's in there, again, going after me. Even though appointed individuals still have that right to a letter and a hearing. So basically what you want to say is you want the president or any officer, if you want to remove them, you just want to have a 5 vote and screw the reason. I mean, that's basically what it means. That's going after me, I guarantee it. Fifth, 815.1, social media. Gee, who would have thought this would have come up? I don't know why. All these years, never came up. Now it comes up because of me, of course. You know, it's ridiculous. Number 6, recording public meetings. Oh my gosh, here we go. If you all need to take a time and read the Sunshine Act, Pennsylvania Sunshine Act, what I'm reading in this is insane. You basically are coming after 2 individuals in this. 2. I can clearly see that. You're trying to limit where we can record, how we can record, and such. My situation on this is, y'all are asking for a lawsuit. That's what you're asking for, and that's what you're going to get. The hourly rate just went up, so, you know, you can explain to all the constituents why you're spending more money, because I don't think any of you want to stop me from using my body camera in a meeting, ever, because that's going to be a real problem, and I'm not going to put up with it. This is a public meeting in a public environment, and nobody is doing anything wrong, nobody is causing the disturbance. I sit there quietly, I record the meetings, and I go home. So the fact that all of you think you need to come after me 6 times since December 4th is ridiculous. I'm calling a stop to it, because these are clearly coming after me. And here's another thing you don't even think about. While you're coming after me all the time, you aren't concentrating on the students of this district. I can see everything that comes out of this curriculum committee is about me. Most everything's about me. I don't see anything that's helping the students. Nothing. But if you would spend as much time on the students in this committee as you do on me, I think a lot would get done. I really do. And so I just want to say, maybe we should change from concentrating on me, okay, and concentrate on the students of this district. And I thank you for letting me speak, and have a good evening. Thank you.
Suzanne Johnson.
Good evening. As we know, I have a student in the district, and I'm going to speak about some of the policies. So, in establishing protocols for recording public board meetings, the district and school board need to ensure that they don't impede upon their obligations as established by federal or state laws and regulations. Case law concerning the First Amendment provides for recording of observable activities in publicly accessible areas. In this case, that would include the school parking lot, the lobby of the district office, and the boardroom when members of the public are invited to gather before, during, and after public board meetings. Thus, the guidelines can't require that the recording devices be set up no less than 5 minutes before the advertised meeting time, and specify that they must be taken down immediately upon adjournment of the meeting. Nor can they limit the recording to begin when the meeting is officially called to order, to end when the meeting concludes, nor to pause during recesses or break. Further, the protocols can't limit the video recording to designated media location, as long as the recording doesn't impede public officials' ability to safely conduct their duties. The PA Sunshine Act allows agencies to issue reasonable rules to avoid disruptions. However, beyond very limited expectations or exceptions, such as, say, right in front of the projected display that is used for the meetings, it would be unreasonable to argue that recording from any location in this boardroom will cause a disruption of the meeting. In fact, past precedent has demonstrated that personal devices used to video record public meetings from the board table or from public seating didn't impede the performance of public duties or disrupt public meetings. Items in number 5 of the recording protocols seem to be more appropriate for media entities and overreach what would be expected of individual citizens. Further, it appears to go above and beyond what is actually established in Policy 911 for the news media regulations, which only provides the following limitation: photographs of a controversial nature or that are questionable with regard to individual rights of privacy shall not be sanctioned. Now I'm going to turn to the proposed Policy 815.1 on social media, which attempts to differentiate between personal and third-party social media accounts and those accounts controlled by the district. Case law concerning the PA Right to Know law has demonstrated that personal and third-party social media accounts may be considered public records. In fact, this was established in the March 2024 findings from the Office of Records Appeal in the Johnson versus Littlestown Area School Board District. Littlestown Area School District. A school board member created 2 additional Facebook pages for the purpose of her election and service related to the school board, and the findings said that these were public records, even though they weren't accounts controlled by the district. Unfortunately, that board member acted in bad faith by deleting those records to avoid disclosure. The proposed social media policy also impedes on free speech rights and misrepresents and reaches beyond what is included in Policy 815 on acceptable use, which already establishes the use of the district network and internet in inappropriate, illegal, or prevents inappropriate, illegal, or unethical media use. For example, the proposed social media policy incorrectly asserts that the acceptable use policy includes respecting students and others, such as staff and previous staff. The acceptable use policy does not do that, and only limits things such as obscene or discriminatory use. The new social media policy attempts to extend that to prohibiting anything that may be embarrassing to another person in the district. Terms like respecting others and embarrassing others are extremely subjective and limit free speech rights. Further, the proposed social media policy seems to conflict with Policy 320, the freedom of speech in non-school settings. And in fact, goes as far to say an employee could be disciplined for social media posts that could be demonstrated or could be immoral, which again is extremely subjective and limits individual freedoms. The district and school board should consider legality of these new guidelines and policies before subjecting the taxpayers to further solicitor expenses trying to defend your actions that seem to be motivated by retaliation and personal biases. Thank you.
Dr. Mitchell, with presentations.
All right, terrific. So this evening, what I've shared with everyone is 24-25 student handbooks in accordance with what we currently have available from our last CCMP committee meeting. We've taken a look. Do you want to open up? We can open up ACES to take a look at it. What we have done is we've implemented a policy, had a first reading. We have a second reading here in the month of June for our dress code policy, which delegates or designates the dress code to be located in the handbooks. Our building principals have gotten together to create a dress code that would be acceptable K through 12, a first shot, if you will, to try to make sure that we bring some things through. So I'd like to be able to go to that dress code policy for ACES because it's the same in every handbook. That's on page 9. begins on page 9, and it does go over to page 10, Mrs. Brennan. So what we did is we took into account School Board Policy 221 that recognizes our students' desire to be able to express their freedom of grooming, their mode of dress is a manifestation of their style and individual preference. But we also know that in a public area, we do need a certain modicum of decorum and a shared expectation or a common expectation of what it is that we provide. So we did really go through to make sure that we looked at a safe and orderly operations within the school. So that means clothing that displays slogans, pictures, suggestive language, as you can see, demonstrates affiliations with gangs or violence, clothing which exposes undergarments, is sheer, transparent. Those things are things that we do not want our students to be able to wear. The tops, shirts, blouses, as you see, extend to the belt line. Bottoms should be worn at waistline to cover the buttocks, and appropriate footwear should be worn at all times. It does go through to the very end that it is the administrator that has the authority to be able to recognize and review and discuss with the students and the parents what the violation may be, if there's a violation, and impose disciplinary consequences should further interventions need to be levied. So with that, that is really the main difference between our handbooks from previous and our handbooks moving forward. So I would open up at this point to any questions or comments that you have. Go right ahead.
I do. So where you have tops, you say they have to extend to the top of the belt.
Correct.
However, you do not address this. So we have a little saying somewhere with no boobs, no butts, no bellies. We don't want to see any of that. So we do need to address the top as well as the bottom part of the shirt. And the length of the shorts, skirts, and dresses. Our rule is always, when you stand up and put your hand straight down, wherever your finger, the longest finger is how short it can be. And then I have, well, this
Sure.
is under playground, but it still
Okay.
deals with,
We'll
so
get,
it
we'll
said,
get to that one.
okay,
We'll get to that.
all right.
Any other thoughts or questions regarding the dress code? So one of the conversations that we had, Mrs. Brennan, that Mr. Lovell and I had, was to do this correctly and to do this the best way. We want to seek input from students, from teachers, from parents, from administrators, and bring that together and take some time to review. Unfortunately for us to get the policy through of the school policy 221, to be able to coordinate with our handbooks, we were in a very big rush. So at this point, this was what we wanted to try to put into play, and I think it's a good start. It doesn't mean that those things can't be addressed, and it doesn't mean that the administration won't address that. Those are things that the administrator would have the ability to review and discuss with both students and parents. What I would propose that we do is we accept this or take this for a good start, and we move forward in next year and bring those people together to then take a look at what we have in place and be able to make modifications for 25 and 26.
I mean, it's definitely a good start, like you said, and yeah, there's no issue with that. I feel that kids need to be able to respect themselves before anybody else is going to respect them. And if you're dressing so scantily that you leave nothing to the imagination, who's going to respect that?
Sure.
I don't, but
Right.
I'm an old grandmother, so I don't want it. But, you know, I think it's a good point that you have to have your self-respect before anyone else is going to
Absolutely.
respect you.
And I think this serves as a good opening for conversations with students and families to be able to develop
Okay.
good relations between them.
Okay.
So would anything prohibit a building administrator from, say they have a problem with one of those areas, that a building administrator with maybe a certain grade or a certain class, that they could address them specifically with something that might be out of the ordinary?
That's a great point, and it does not prohibit them.
Okay.
That's exactly
So
it.
that could be.
So like
Oh,
a teacher could address,
Yeah,
like,
correct.
hey, could you go find another
good shared understanding of what to expect, because teachers are the front line in this.
Okay. Sorry, Steve.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, so the way this is worded, it pretty much passes the muster and yet gives you some room to address issues so that it doesn't look like it's too broad and that it's left for a broad interpretation.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Very well said.
Is there, because I don't know that we would be able to necessarily go through the disciplinary process for something that's not listed unless there would be maybe a sentence of, and I don't know where this gets legally, of anything else deemed by the administration or.
I think as it's shared, the dress code violation should be addressed initially through the teacher, and if the student does not modify, the administration has the ability to further intervene. So as our teachers are that first opening, it may be a little bit lighter or less than what you just shared, but that does give the opening for that administrator to work with teachers and students and families and open up that dialogue.
Yep, as long as we're covered in that.
As a general rule, anything, and this is even outside of dress code, anything that's a disruption to the educational process may be addressed. So I think that covers it.
Absolutely. I do want to say that this, I think, was a really great, short-term, urgent product that the administrators all got together and put together for Unified for K through 12. And I'm very appreciative of what they put together for us. Now, unless there's any other questions about this part, I'll open up to any other questions about the handbooks or any other concerns that you might have. Sure.
So under playground, it says please make sure your child wears sneakers or closed-toe shoes, and on and on. Does that mean that they are not allowed to wear, say, slides or Crocs or sandals?
They may wear what they
Is this
want,
just a
but
suggestion?
it is going to impact some of the toys and some of the equipment that they play on the playground. Help keep them safe so that we don't have students that hurt themselves when they're trying to use the big toy.
Okay. I think it
It's
will
not a
be
requirement.
highlighted in here. I guess that's separate. You have that, getting into the medications.
Yes,
So you'll get into that later.
I will get into the
Okay, 'cause I
medications, yeah, correct. That isn't a policy that we have.
So the medication part doesn't address this one though. Illness at school. If temperature is 100 or greater, the parent will be called to come for the child. Did some research. So it's considered to be a fever at 100.4, which is kind of nickels and dimes, but that is according to Seattle Children's, Boston's Children's, Sinai, Harvard, Johns Hopkins. So at 100 degrees and pending, symptoms, parents can be called, but it is their discretion if the nurse just gives Tylenol and sends them back to class.
Yep. And I think that's the practice that we use. Our nurses will call and talk with them. Sometimes the parents will say, we want to keep them here. Sometimes parents are very open and say, I'd like to come in and get my child and bring my child home.
Well, I mean, we've had 2 recent incidences personally where it was 100, just 100, and we had to come get her and take her home. So I'm pushing for that 1.4, even though it's a little bit, but.
Sure.
Does it measure I would imagine that, but that would be that specific.
And some of the things that we do, we want to make sure that our students aren't, we want to have them alert and well while they're sitting in class. And oftentimes just a fever of 100 or 99 sometimes impacts their ability to concentrate and really be present in the moment at school. So I can discuss that with the school nurses about that, the strictness or the rigidity of that.
Okay. That's fine. That's all I got on the handbook.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you. I I can open up Maple Avenue. Maple Avenue's is very much similar to what was presented for ACES. So it is a little bit shorter, a little bit more condensed. It does start to produce a little more policy in it because of the age and the maturity of our students. So any questions related to the MAM's student handbook for 24-25?
No, I thought that was okay.
Steve?
No, I'm good.
All right, great. And moving forward, then we have the Littlestown Area High School student handbook. Again, this is probably the largest or the most robust, as it is the flagship for the district, and it does provide an opening to welcome students and parents to the school, provides information about academics, bell scheduling, coursework, other opportunities that we have for students, and presents sign-off sheets a little bit sooner than the others do. But in essence, it does provide the most coverage for policies, for operations. And again, if I'm going to go back, I would say, just as Dr. Bell stated, the safe and orderly operation of the building is that number one responsibility of the building administrator. Any questions related to the high school handbook?
This version, is it much different or just a tweak here and there from last year?
This is not much different than last year. Ultimately, the newest thing that was placed in it was the dress code. That's ultimately that new document that was placed there.
I thought it was good. I liked the fact that she outlined, well, whoever did it, outlined where they can actually use their cell phones during the day and that type of thing. So
And-
they have a rigid area of where they can do that.
Just a note for that, that was Dr. Berryman who worked last year to talk with the faculty to identify locations that would be red zones and green zones for cell phone use and not use. And I will say this and throw out accommodations to Mrs. Golden, the same thing is listed in the middle school for cell phone use. So that is new for the high school, but that is a combination of working together with the middle school.
We try to keep them focused.
That's right. Then moving on, the next item that I have for your review and really to move forward, and I asked that we would move this forward to the full board for adoption. This is the Littlestown Area School District Curriculum Revision Handbook. So last month I shared a very short presentation that focused on a 4-year cycle for curriculum revision that had teacher leaders, administrators working together to review, make sure that curriculum was aligned to adhere to state standards, make sure that resources were aligned for the purposes of instruction, review assessments so that assessments are clear, accurate, and reliable, and make sure that we had the opportunity then to analyze and see is there any way that we can take a modification or create a new class or a new opportunity for our students in something that we've done. So we are going through a 4-year process. This outlines everything that we would do here, would serve then as the guide for all teacher leaders, all building administrators, and really set the district on a pathway to ensure that our curriculum is never older than 4 years. Doesn't have any resources that have not been reviewed within 4 years. So the idea and the purpose of this is truly to make sure that we're analyzing our curriculum, reviewing what it does for us through instruction, and assess our students to make sure that they are getting the things that we intend for them to receive. On an aside, I will tell you that I've shared this since January with teacher leaders and building administrators, asked them for their input, asked them to provide different wording, different phrases, modify. There were a few tweaks that were accepted, but this is what I would consider a collaborative document, and I would like to thank the teacher leaders and the building principals for their input and their reception to this document to guide our curriculum writing and our curriculum process moving forward.
Any questions for Dr. Mitchell on this? Mary?
No.
So I guess everybody good with moving all of the handbooks, the Alley Creek, Maple Avenue, high school, and the curriculum revision forward?
All right, great. Fantastic. So we only have a few policies here and some guidelines to take a look at. The very first document that I have, there is no change to the policy. So that's why you're not going to see any red lines. You're not going to see anything that's been removed or struck. If you can go all the way to the bottom, we did add an attachment. This is the brand new item. Permission for self-administration by student. This was something that we worked with our nurses to create. And basically, we had two forms previously, one for asthmatic inhalers, one for EpiPen auto-injectors, and all we're doing is combining those into this form. So if a student has an inhaler that needs to be used, the parent can fill out just that portion. If a student has an EpiPen, they can fill out just that portion. But if a student has both, they can use that same form to cover both areas and provide that to the school nurse.
So I had a question.
Sure.
So you're saying that this has already, the board shall permit students to possess asthma inhalers and the auto injectors. So that has always been the case because my granddaughter has to leave hers at the nurse's and go take a puff anytime she needs it.
So this is something for that possession because we do not want to have a crisis that comes up. So they need to be able to possess it and
Right.
administer it.
So now what her mom can fill out the form, or I can because I'm also
Correct.
like guardian.
Yeah.
And then she can keep that with her in her
In her
backpack.
backpack, that's correct.
Okay. Cause yeah, that's been an issue, cause it's kind of disruptive too, to
Mhm.
say, it's like where I gotta run and, you know, I can't breathe or whatever, like for gym class and recess sometimes, cause she'll get where she can't breathe. So that's good to know. I wanted to verify that that's what that meant. That was one of my things I had. Also in here, you mentioned the school physician. Who is the school physician?
That is a really great question. I don't personally know who the school physician is. But I will find that out.
Okay. Oh, really? I need something else.
I will find out and get back to you.
Okay, no, he's okay, but, I did have one more on the, since we're talking about this
Sure.
asthma and stuff. Daniel, I know had asked you previously about the cough drop thing, because once again, that is disruptive.
Right.
To start hacking and say, I gotta run to the nurse to get a cough drop, could the teachers possibly keep them in a spot, or could they keep them in their backpack? As long as they're not
Yeah.
just disrupting and eating them like candy or whatever.
Correct. One of the first things that we would do to make sure that we have the appropriate items that are there is a form or a note coming from the parent to the school nurse to be able to review, and then that school nurse being able to provide that to that teacher so that that may
Okay.
be there in the classroom for that
Okay.
teacher to be able
All
to
right.
distribute.
Okay.
So that is a doable thing?
That is doable.
So under current policy,
Correct.
you can give that to the
Correct.
teacher to, that's good.
Yeah, because that was another thing, like, I gotta go to the nurse and get cough drop.
I remember.
Of course, she's a dental queen, so she complains about everything, but we're getting it. Okay, that was all my questions and comments on that one.
Anything on this one, Steve?
I'm good.
Good with moving this forward?
Yes.
And the next item is public records, and this item has been brought to the attention of the district related to the request for public records right to know. What has been seen recently are some requests made by AI entities for public record, right to know, and the Office of Open Records reviewed this, shared their thoughts with the district, shared their thoughts with us, and it is, the intent here is to discuss this with the committee for the possibility of including any requests that are anonymous in nature and do not have or recognize reason for that is there is anonymity, and one of the requirements for a right to know is that you are a citizen of the United States, and you make that request. The requests that have come through this AI do not have a name associated, and therefore it is anonymous, and there's no way to verify that that individual seeking is actually a resident of the United States or a citizen. So I have not entered anything in there. That's open for discussion of what we would like to be able to place into this open records document to be able to support that, so that we do not get, our right to know officer doesn't get bogged down with 2,000, 3,000 right to knows generated from an AI.
Dr. Missel, the way the document is written right now, does it accomplish that fact? It does not? Or
It doesn't have anything explicit for anonymity. And as we were discussing, or as I was working with Dr. Bell and with others, we wanted to make sure that we had an anonymity clause in
So
it.
you're just asking to move forward to work on it?
Correct. I'm asking for input from this committee. If we would like to craft something to put in, this would be a really great opportunity for your input into what I craft for that anonymity clause. If you trust me, I can certainly add that and place that in moving forward so that the full board can review it.
Yeah, it could become a very costly thing to get frivolous right-to-know requests by anybody, but especially by AI-generated stuff. So I would definitely say that we should put something in to the effect of, and if we can wordsmith it,
Sure.
but that an anonymous requester will not be viewed as meeting the requirements to file an official right-to-know request, as they have not met the requirement of demonstrating that they're a citizen of the United States, or something like that, and that such requests will be denied.
And as with this, as we move forward, this would be something that we would have the solicitor review for that specific reason, to check that wording and make sure that that is fully legal and doable.
Absolutely.
Just the fact that it says anonymous
Yes.
means it's just kicked it out.
That helps us in any suit moving forward, so that we have it backed up in policy, our practices are backed up in policy.
Because apparently it's going on all over the place, and we got a
The
notice.
Office of Open Records has contacted us and recommended this.
Gotcha.
And so if it comes through this AI-generated source, it's not necessarily going to say anonymous, but it'll say whatever the website is or the AI system. And some, I guess, are granting it. There's been appeals and stuff like that pending at the OR. We just want to do this to protect ourselves, because under the law, it doesn't meet the requirement of demonstrators that they're a citizen.
Well, when this law was written, it didn't probably have an idea that AI was going to be a problem. So, I guess, does there need to be any language in there specifically identifying AI or thereof, or anything of that nature? Because the abuse is coming through that format.
That's something that I think, as we write, that could be something that could be considered and provided, input provided by our solicitor on that specifically.
So do we have the committee's permission to do some adjustments and revisions to the policy regarding this, get it reviewed by the solicitor, and bring it to the full board for approval?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Great. Our next policy that we have is 815.1, social media. This policy does not have any lines through it. It's a brand new policy. Just for the committee's understanding, this policy was considered a few years back. It had been something that was brought forward in 2020, according to records that we have with our active policy trackers, looking and reviewing notes and minutes. This policy did not make it out of committee back in 2020. prior to the shutdown that took place that year, and it has not gained enough steam to come back. So in review, this is something that we do want to be able to take a look at, because we do have students, we do have district-operated social media, and it would be very good, a very good idea to cover the district and make sure that the district is protected in any social media sharing, since we have our Littlestown app, we have a Facebook page that we use, we have a number of different outlets that we provide, Insta, we do from the high school. So having this in place helps protect the liability of the district and helps serve this community.
This policy was brought in even before your time. This was
Correct.
when Dr.
Dr. Stoller was sitting here presenting to the CCP committee. That's right.
Any questions or discussion on this?
No, I just move it.
Are you good with it, Mary? Good, Steve?
All right, only one more to go. And this, just very similar to what we had done with communications with the public.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. We're going to move it forward. This POP 815.1 has not yet been reviewed by the solicitor. We wanted to bring that to your
Thank you.
attention first, to provide any possible revisions, to then pass it along to him for cost savings. So we don't have to do it once in case we wanted to change anything. So I want to make sure before you all, just to get your approval again, to send it to the solicitor.
Yes.
And then once we get solicitor comments, if there's things we need to change, we'll change that to bring out to the full board.
So when is that, what's it called, TSBA?
July 1st.
July 1st.
Oh, so.
That's
we can't
right.
use
That's when our
that.
contract
And that's
is.
coming up. You're ahead of the game tonight.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. So, do we have the committee's permission to move forward with the policy, send it to the solicitor for review, and then bring it out with the review copy at the board meeting?
Yes.
Perfect. Now we can go to the next.
Good point of order. No problem. So just as we went through and worked to provide some norms or some expectations for communication, one of the items and one of the things that we believe that we would like to move forward with is some protocols for recording public board meetings. And really, this is, again, just as I shared and Dr. Bell shared with our handbooks, it's really for the safe and orderly operation of meetings and for everyone that's part of that meeting. So during public meetings such as this, we do not have any expectation of privacy. However, we do have some guidelines that we can put in place, such as this, to place a designated area for recording purposes, so that everyone that's part of the meeting can understand from which direction and what area that's designated recording could come from. So this is for that purpose, to be able to help ease anxiety of anyone that's here, encourage the public to be here at public board meetings, listen, review, and hear what we have to say, and then follow up with what is expected from those recordings. Did I hit everything? I think I hit everything we've discussed.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, just to preface at the beginning, this has not yet been reviewed by the solicitor.
Correct.
It was drafted. We're going to be sending it to the solicitor if we move it forward. We just wanted to figure out if we wanted to move forward with a recording guideline before we even get the solicitor, so that we're not spending money before.
One note that I would like to share is it could impact our student presentations. So as our students and families will be here for Students of Month, where families take a picture, record, we could put into play in this policy an exception for parents where they can record their children from the location where they're seated. Because it is not the entire board, it is simply their child. And I think that being a partner with our parents, in our community. I think that would serve us well to be able to provide an exception for them in that limited time. That too would be reviewed by the solicitor for adherence to PA laws.
How do you feel about that?
It's, does it give an appearance of double standard?
And that would be a good question for Mr. Harris to be able to provide that to us. If this committee wishes not to include that, I'm certainly fine to move it forward without that listing.
Well, it's a good thought that I didn't think of, because you don't,
Correct.
I mean, you don't want to prohibit a parent being able to capture them with their students, being able to students.
Yeah.
Um,
But you're not gonna get your answers until you peer review it. And then we can make a decision.
But the solicitor has to look at it.
That's what I mean.
Correct. Absolutely.
Because basically what you're saying is there's going to be certain locations that cameras can be and.
Correct.
And
So just an aside, as a building principal, if someone comes to record, it is within the building administrator's right and legal authority to tell the media or anyone reporting, you have a designated media area that you can record from, and it's located right there.
Okay. Oh, it's just a question.
Yeah, yeah. Very good question.
So do we want to move forward with an exception there? At least put it in for the solicitor to review and see if that would be appropriate?
But yeah, because the solicitor's going to review the whole thing.
It's gonna be reviewed anyway,
Whether it's
so,
good or
yes,
not.
And if it doesn't meet that standard, then I believe the solicitor would tell us that.
yeah.
So, are everyone in agreement with moving that forward to the solicitor with that added?
Yeah, as long as he has input for the say on whether it's good or not.
Yep.
All right. All right, so moving to other business, I sent committee members an email requesting that you just come to share some ideas for discussion of where we want to start with PSBA policy review. So if you bring that to the meeting. So PSBA, the board approved that contract with them last month to rejoin as members of PSBA. They're now going to be providing our primary policy review, and we just want to know where to start, because we're not gonna have another meeting until that contract starts. And so we want to be able to get the most bang for our buck and start right away out of the gate with things that we want them to start looking at. So I'll open up the floor for the committee to make some open discussion as to.
Well, obviously, I haven't had time to get through them all. I'm gonna got zeros and 200s, and 200s was rather big, the 200 section. So maybe you look at it from what is the biggest section, and that would get the most bang for our buck.
They all have to be reviewed, right?
They do.
And then go
So
up
if
to
you
the
start
inside.
with the biggest one,
Well, it would be, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's a 3-year process to get through all of the policies. So no matter where we start, it's gonna take 3 years to get through all of them.
I mean, I don't really care, I was just saying,
No, I'm just stating for discussion. We're going to get through them all at one point or another.
but I do have a quick question. So when they do these, I assume that where it says last reviewed will be updated to when they, because some of these are rather old. They,
After the nineties.
well, I didn't get 90s yet, but
Yes, there are some policies that really don't change very often, but a good comprehensive review of your policies is a very healthy thing to do for a district. And this would be a good way for us to provide leadership moving forward and what direction we want to go with policies. So I heard
So-
200s.
My question is, do you think with what we've done up to this point in bringing some cohesion to school code and policy, do you think that from A to Z, where I'm just wondering that where we've had some of our conflict and some of our issues, that would be a place to look at? I mean, there has been some corrections, there has been some remedy, but I still think, as you've pointed out in prior meetings, that once you're aware of an issue, you need to fix it. And I think somebody that looks at this stuff all the time will be able to spot something quicker than, you know, just laboring through and trying to make sense of everything, because you just don't look at it every day, right? And so I guess that's part of your question, is where do we want to dive into it?
Right. Yep, and I would probably start an area that, like you said, it hasn't been reviewed in a while. And to add, I've looked through, and I think an important section is the 800s, because those are the operations. And it's not super big, so it's not like it would be super time consuming for them, and we can move to something else. And then after the 800s, I was thinking the 200s,
you know, 200 section's pretty.
because that's
Yeah,
two
Yes.
it's all about students. 200s is all about students.
So, any further discussion on that?
Well, is there a reason why some numbers are skipped? Does anybody know why?
Because there are some, I'll try to answer this first and then I'll defer to Dr. Mitchell. There are some, I know, PSBA policies that we don't have it necessarily adopted in the past. Because I think they have like a full policy manual of every, and we use the same numbering system on all the school districts in Pennsylvania do. But there may be some, because like I've looked at Gettysburg and see that we have one that they don't, or they have one that we don't. And so that's a little bit different amongst districts.
Just an example, 216 moves right to 216.2, but there's not a 216.1.
Right.
And then some of them have big gaps, like, there's nothing for 240 through 245.
And some areas are open for new things that might come along.
Okay.
So if a situation would come along, or PSBA would provide a different view of an item, they have that room to be able to provide that.
Okay, I just wondered why there was a gap in some areas and.
But we would have now as PSBA members access to their entire policy manual.
Correct. And their input, their rewriting, and I might mention, perhaps we ask them their input on what the most reviewed or most updated policies are statewide. They would have that information for us, and that could be another area that they would be input.
Yep. So we can do that. So, is everyone okay with starting with the 8s, and as well as asking them for their review, and we'll do the 800s and 200s. Okay. So that was that. Is there any other business to be brought before the committee? Mary, you normally have something.
But I have a solution.
That's great.
Now I gotta come up with a whole new list for next week.
Steve? You good?
Good.
motion to adjourn? Or, I'm gonna wait, I'm gonna rescind my ask for your permission to adjourn. I'm gonna announce that, we are going to hold this co-curriculum and policy committee meeting on August 6th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m.
Is that not already on our schedule?
No, that'll be a
When
new
is it,
event.
August sixth
August 6th
at 6?
at 6:30. Yep.
You said the sixth. The sixth. Okay. Thank you.
Can you send out an email?
Yep, we will. Excuse me. Now, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
I don't understand why you take public comment and then don't answer any of the concerns. What's the point of listening to public comment if you're not gonna address anything that they said?
Like to hear someone talk.
Huh?
Like to hear someone talk. What? Can you like the way I talk? Were you offended?
Well, you know, you have to have public debate, but you ignore everything the public says.
No, you don't want transparency and you don't want public
I make
debate.
my own rules.
So you cut it all.
Right.
And it's a dictatorship.
Taking my turn to the meeting.
That's what you do. God, I hope there's no pictures of any of them. That'd be scary, wouldn't it? Somebody took a picture of them when they were young. Oh my goodness gracious. I'd worry if that got out, like on Facebook or something.
Well, there's
Oh
also,
my gosh. Somebody buying your truck for you or something? Hey, look.
there also seems to be confusion about public space versus
Yeah.
non-public
Yeah.
spaces in a school.
Yeah, absolutely.
A classroom is not a public space.
No, exactly. That was my point.
A public meeting is a public space. A public concert is a
They don't
public
understand
space.
public.
No, I don't think so.
If they don't want to be in public, quit.
And if people don't want to be, their kids to be in public, don't come to
Don't
public.
come to public. Don't go to Walmart. You stand there and you cash out and there's the camera.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Go tell Walmart to shut your cameras off.
Guess what? When you're at a band concert, your kids get recorded. Not by just you.
Yeah, I've seen that.
If you don't want your
Oh,
kids
at
recorded, yeah,
There's
graduation.
kids getting recorded.
At graduation? Are you kidding me?
No. I'm telling you, I saw it myself.
I cannot believe that,
Oh, it's
Dwayne.
unbelievable. You would think that some of these people that raise hell would have jumped right up and grabbed their cameras right out of their hands.
My kid won't be at graduation. My kid won't be at the band concert. My kid won't be at the award ceremonies.
Don't want to be in public?
Is this your-
Go freaking run.
Fred, Dwayne, is this your water?
Oh, yeah, thanks. I wasn't that thirsty, but I need to hear for next time.
If you're allowed in next time. If you haven't been arrested yet.
George Santos special. That's for sure.
Are these people stupid? I mean, really? Are they that dumb?
They are very stupid. I'm sorry. What you and I just put ourselves through should never have to happen. So we haven't reviewed it yet. Well, if you review it, come back and tell me how you could stop me from recording, let me know. Because that's a lawsuit.
Yep.
And you know, Larry was telling me that back when the commissioners tried that in 2014, they got sued and the guy won.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Oh, yeah. They can't. This is a public.
You know he sent it to his lawyer, and she hasn't responded back yet because he's read it. I'm like, there ain't no way they can do this. No
Yeah.
way.
Well, like I just said, the parking lot, that room right there, and that public boardroom are all public spaces.
Exceptions for the kids. Seriously?
Nope.
I have heard everything in my life I need to hear.
All they got to see is First Amendment auditor policies, and they will be in lawsuits quicker than they want to see. Yep. All on the taxpayer dollar. All in the taxpayer dollars. Idiots. These are the stupidest people I've met.